So we understand a little bit about Rashbam's frustration here. Rashbam himself was a big believer in the idea of two questions and two answers, and now Rashbam looks at what's going on in Ashkenazic Parshanut and says, wait a minute, my grandfather's original text, my grandfather Rashi, when he first began interpreting this, he understood that basic idea that there were two questions. Right? The Mi'anochi Kielecha Paro question, and then the question which Rashi interpreted is whether Bnei Israel are worthy. And then Rashi understood there were two answers, and he even explained the sequence, Hashiva Rishon Rishon, V'Achron Achron. And then, suddenly later in life, Rashi walks that back. He has this new interpretation, where the sign is no longer the burning bush, reassuring Moshe that God really sent him and answering question number one, but rather the sign was a sign like the sign as Rashi interpreted in the story of Sancherev, a sign that after I fulfill this first promise for you, I will help fulfill a later promise by bringing you to Har Sinai. So that completely undermines what Rashbam himself thinks, which is there are two questions and two answers here. And he sees Rashi moving in that direction. He further sees Yosef Kara, as we discussed, moving in that direction. We don't know who pushed who. Did Yosef Kara push Rashi in that direction? Did the two of them agree on this? But as they point out in the Al HaTorah footnotes, Mahadura Batra Birashi Doma the Perush there. They point out regarding Yosef Kara's comment that the later edition of Rashi is similar to it. It's possible that Rashi was influenced here by Yosef Kara. Think about that for a moment. Rashbam knows these people, but he's younger than them, right? He's Rashi's grandson. He's probably about 45, 50 years younger than Rashi. He is younger than Yosef Kara as well. So he sees his predecessors constantly changing their mind about what the pasuk means. Not only constantly changing their mind, but seemingly moving further and further away from Rashi's original interpretation, which Rashbam thought was largely correct. And so therefore Rashbam comes along and says, look, if you want to really know the Pshat, you have to read my commentary. My predecessors, I don't think he only means Rashi. I think he means Rashi and Yosef Kara. My predecessors didn't get this right. They somehow were moving you away from the Pshat here over time. And so I know it sounds harsh, maybe even a little disrespectful, but I don't think his main goal was to criticize his grandfather as much as to say in general that my predecessors didn't get this right. Let us turn now to Yosef Bechor Shor. This is the final interpretation that we did. Says Yosef Bechor Shor over here. If you would have asked me, this is just a simple pshat. He says Moshe asked one question. Going back to these psukim, Moshe asked, Mi anochi, who am I? And all of this is just elaboration on that. Who am I to do anything in this mission? To go before Paro to get Bnei Israel? I'm not worthy for anything. I'm not worthy to go before Paro, and all the more so, I'm not worthy to take Bnei Israel out. And so God answers all of that with the phrase, I'll be with you. That's okay, maybe you're not worthy, but if you're not worthy, it's okay, because I, Hashem, I am worthy, and this all comes from me, not from you. So in that one phrase, God has already answered everything. And then the rest of what we have over here is going to all be, we can just get that in purple for a moment, is all going to be a separate statement. Says Bechor Shor, what's going on here? What's the sign? So God said, I'm going to be with you. Then the rest of the pasuk is the sign. The sign that I have sent you and you're my messenger is going to be revealed when you bring everyone to Har Sinai. When they'll get to Har Sinai, then I'm going to give them a sign. Then they're going to see that Har Sinai was given with thunder and lightning and smoke and God revealing himself. When that happens, that's when they're going to realize that God sent Moshe and everything Moshe did was as a messenger of God. And in fact, if you know Parshat Yitro later, when Moshe brings them to Har Sinai, God says to him, V'gam b'chaya aminu le'olam. Let me blow that up so you see it inside. God says to Moshe at Har Sinai, I'm going to appear to you, reveal myself to you with this cloud. So this time, the nation is going to hear me speaking with you. Bnei Israel are going to see what's going on in Har Sinai. So they'll believe in you as well. Not only are they going to believe in Hashem when they see Hashem give the Torah, they're going to believe in Moshe because they're going to see that Moshe is the one to whom God revealed the Torah. And so that's what's going to make them believers in God and Moshe. So God is basically saying, I'm with you. And if you want a sign for that, the sign is going to come when you bring them to Har Sinai. This seems to be a very elegant way to explain the psukim. Right? I mean, at face value, who am I that I should go before Paro? And this v'chi should also then mean that. Who am I that I should go before Paro? And that I should take Bnei Israel out of Egypt? It really reads like one statement if you stop and think about it. Right? Rashi made this not about Moshe taking them out, but about them being worthy. Rambam, instead of interpreting this v'chi as that, interpreted it as how. How am I supposed to do it? Isn't it simpler to interpret it the same as the first key, meaning that? Who am I that I should go before Paro, or that I should take Bnei Israel out of Egypt? And then God saying that I'll be with you really does address that issue, right? And then, rather than making up all kinds of nice vortlach about how going to Har Sinai is a zechut, or it's, leaving Egypt is a sign for something else, someone said, I'll be with you, you leave Egypt, and then the rest of this pasuk is relevant because it is the sign. This is the sign for you. This, v'zeh, it refers to the rest of the pasuk. What Bechor Shor says seems so obvious, you have to kind of scratch your head and say, how come nobody thought of it before him? And so we suggested that the real issue here, the reason there's so many different opinions here, and the reason I think it's worth talking about this pasuk so much, is that it touched on the question of what is a sign, what is an ot. Right? The original interpretation of Rashi, as well as the interpretation of Rambam, to them an ot is a miracle that God does right now to verify that he really is the one speaking to you. And we certainly see otot like that elsewhere. And a little bit later on in this exact story, Moshe is going to be given some otot to perform in front of Bnei Israel, and then otot to perform in front of Paro. Things like throwing a stick on the ground and having it become a snake, or turning water into blood. So those clearly are miracles that Moshe does in order to show that he is a true representative of God. Rambam, in his commentary over here, alludes to the Gidon story. So if you know the Gidon story at all, Gidon is told by God that God sent him, so by this angel that God is sending him, and then Gidon asks for certain miracles where something is going to get wet with dew and then dry. So a lot of what Gidon basically wants, a miracle, like a sign, an ot, that it really is God who's speaking with him and he's not just having a hallucination. So that's one type of ot. And if you think that's the ot here, then you have a problem for the ot to be Yetziat Mitzrayim. If Moshe, to be Matan Torah. If Moshe is looking for a sign that God is with him now, then how does it do Moshe any good to tell him, God is with you now, and the proof of it is that at some point down the road you're going to come back to Har Sinai. Well, it's great that I'm going to come back to Har Sinai at some point down the road, but I want a sign now. And so I think those Meforshim who assume the sign has to be something that Moshe can see right now, they couldn't accept the idea that Matan Torah is the sign. And so the easiest way to get around that was to say, well, look, we actually have a miracle that is going on now, the burning bush. Maybe that's the sign. And so, again, Rashi in his early years and Rambam both say the burning bush is the sign. Rashi even had some nice symbolism for that. But somehow that seems a little bit unsatisfying because that forces us to view the second half of this pasuk as completely detached. And it forces us to split this into two separate questions, even though at face value, the pasuk read quite smoothly as one question. And so, Rambam and Rashi did that. They paid that price, right? They somehow made this into a separate question and then made this into a separate answer. But somehow Rashi wasn't satisfied with that. And so Rashi later in life, in consultation with Yosef Kara, says, you know what? Maybe we can introduce this new idea. And again, it's played out better in Yosef Kara's comments, in Rashi's exclusive comment, in Rashi's comment, at least in the Leipzig manuscript, he didn't fully take back what he said originally. But they realized basically we can leave Yud Aleph as one long question, answer it here, and then we'll have this new type of sign. This is a big chiddush they come up with, that sometimes, instead of God giving a miraculous sign right now, a miracle like the burning bush, and saying, this is the sign that I'm speaking to you, God says, you know what, I'm not giving you a sign for now. And that's why, if you look, especially in Yosef Kara's commentary, he really plays up this idea that ki ayeh imach, that I will be with you, is itself enough of a sign, right? It's like God saying, look, I'm not going to give you a sign for the present mission to go to Egypt, because I'm with you, and that's all you need to know for the current mission. But in case you want some sort of a sign, I will tell you the fact that I'm with you now, for this mission of going to Paro and taking Bnei Israel out, that itself is proof to you, will be a sign. When that happens, that'll prove to you that I really am with you, and therefore I'm going to stick with you going further. So right now you don't get any sign, but the fact that step one of this redemption process, going to Paro and taking Bnei Israel out, step one, when it succeeds, will be a sign that step two, getting the Torah, will also happen. Right? It's like someone says, for now you have to just trust me, but as you start to see my plan working out, then it'll be easier for you to trust me in the future. But that itself isn't so satisfying, right? Because at face value, God's saying, this is the sign for you. It sounds like he's giving him a sign right now, not saying that something that happens a few months or a couple of years from now will be a sign for something that'll happen a couple of months after that. And so that leaves us then going back to Bechor Shor and saying, you know what, a simple reading of the Pesukim is that despite it seeming illogical, a promise to be at Har Sinai at some point down the road is a sign for right now. And here, again, we have to assume that Moshe isn't questioning whether or not God is speaking to him, because, again, he already saw the burning bush, he already sensed there was something miraculous about it. And so his real concern isn't whether this is really the voice of God. His concern is whether God has a plan that God truly intends to follow through on here. And so a good sign for that might be if God can already give him a vision of what's going to happen several steps down the road, then that's going to show Moshe that even though the current step that Moshe is being asked to do, to go before Paro and get the Jews out of Egypt, seems illogical and unreasonable for this guy who's been living in Midian for decades. But if God really has a plan that's we can say, look, I know right now what you think I'm asking you to do is nuts, but I'm telling you, I have a thought-out plan that's going to end with you back on this mountain with Bnei Israel. That itself can be a sign. Think of it as sometimes where someone's trying to win you over to do something that you don't necessarily think is a good idea, but they can tell you how it's going to contribute to some larger plan they have. Sometimes once you see they have that larger plan, or you see what the end game is, then you buy into it more. And here, this was the final extra credit that I put out there for you guys on this pasuk. I asked you to take a look at the Rambam. Rambam in Hilchot Yesodei HaTorah is talking about different signs that a prophet can get. And so he points out that Moshe gets a lot of miracles to do. Right? Moshe later on in the story says, "Hey, they're not going to believe me," and God gives him all these different signs he can do. Right? He can turn water into blood, and he can make a stick turn into a snake. But says the Rambam in Hilchot Yesodei HaTorah, all that other stuff that I'm doing is stuff where they might still have some sort of a doubt. Right? Someone who's ma'amin al pi otot, someone who believes based on otot, which here Rambam means like miracles, yesh b'levavo dofi u'meharher u'mechashev. Right? There can still be doubts about that. And so Moshe is concerned. He doesn't want to go. He says, they're not going to believe those miracles. But, says God, you know what? Those miraculous signs I'm giving you, turning the stick into a snake, etc., that's only until they leave Egypt. Once they leave and come to Har Sinai, however, that's going to remove any doubts they have, any thoughts they have. Right? And so that's the true sign. That's what it means. This is the true sign that I sent you, coming to Har Sinai. Because getting the Torah, seeing what happened at Har Sinai, that's a much more compelling oath than anything else. That's something that's even greater than, two witnesses or witnessing a miracle. And so Rambam is basically agreeing with Bechor Shor, but he's giving it this philosophical backing that on a philosophical level, miracles are not really as good a sign as we think, but getting the Torah, that is a truly compelling